Hello, welcome to my channel. My name is Ebony. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're having an amazing start to the new year. Today's video is going to be about my 2023 reading goals and then also some books that I am planning to get to this year, but we'll dive into that in just a second. I hope that you are having an amazing start to the new year and reading amazing books as well so far. So let's get into my reading goals, and honestly this is going to take 30 seconds. My reading goal for this year, the main one, is to read one book. I set my Goodreads and Storygraph challenge as one book because I want to primarily focus this year on slow consumption of media and books, and then also I want to be able to divide my time a little more between reading and writing, and I can't read as much and write as much as I want to simultaneously while also working a full-time job, and I have to take courses this year. I'm going back to school this year, so there's no way I can do all of that. So that being said, I'll probably be reading way less this year, but that means I'll be sharing more of my writing on here, which is exciting. And then my secondary goal this year is to really tackle my physical TBR. I think I counted, I have like 45-ish unread books on my bookshelves, which is a little unacceptable, I think. So I really want to go into that. So most of the books that I am excited to read this year are books that I've shopped from my shelves, from my little TBR cart. So that being said, let's get into it. I'm going to divide it up into basically like the genre or types of books that I have. You'll see a lot of reoccurring themes, a lot of the same authors, but works that I have been meaning to get to. Okay, so two books that I got for Christmas, and honestly the only two books that I received for Christmas this year were poetry. So I'm going to start off with poetry. If you watch my channel, you know that I am a poetry lover, poetry reader, and I also write poetry. And the first collection that I want to get to this year is Hurting Kind by Limon. And Limon is currently the Poet Laureate of the US, which is an amazing thing. This would be my third collection of hers that I've read, and I just love her book covers, honestly. And an amazing fact is that her mom is an artist, and every cover of her books is one of her mom's artwork. I just think that's really cool and really beautiful. So at the end blurb, it says, "I am human enough, I am alone, and I am desperate enough of the animal saving me, enough of the high water, enough sorrow, enough of the air in its ease. I'm asking you to touch me." So yes, this is an astonishing collection about interconnectedness between the human and non-human, ancestors, and ourselves, from National Book Critics Circle Award winner and US Poet Laureate Limon. Sounds amazing. Super excited for this one. And then another poetry collection that I plan on reading that I've had is Let Us Believe in the Beginning of the Cold Season. Super excited about this. And this is translated from the Persian by Elizabeth T. Gray Jr., celebrated as a feminist trailblazer of Iranian literature and as an iconoclastic figure of contemporary world literature. These are thoughtfully curated and deftly translated. The selected poems gathers work from Farrokzhad's whole writing life, early to late, including the entirety of her posthumous book, Let Us Believe in the Beginning of the Cold Season. And another poetry collection that I'm gonna have to break my book buying ban. I forgot to mention this in the beginning. So since I'm attacking my physical TBR, it's obvious that a book buying ban will be a part of me working on my physical TBR. But Savannah Brown is coming out with a new poetry collection. I believe it's called Closer Baby, and I'm excited about it. I believe it comes out sometime in March. Savannah Brown is a writer. She also posts content here on YouTube. I love her work. It's very speculative and gets a little weird. It says, in this dazzling third collection, Savannah Brown holds a magnifying glass to modern intimacy with the lens that burns as often as it illuminates. These poems pinch and pull through the smallest moments, like someone trying to zoom in on a smartphone photo or someone in the thrall of a bad habit. Love it. Sounds very, very interesting and entertaining. So that's what I want to read. So my next section of books that I'm really excited about are books on writing or essay collections. And of course, I have been in a huge Elena Ferrante moment, and I want to read In the Margins on the Pleasure of Reading and Writing. I spoke about this book before, but it's basically Elena Ferrante's musings. Here it says, here in these 4 crisp essays, Ferrante offers a rare look at the origins of her literary powers. She writes about her influences, her struggles, and her formation as both a reader and a writer. She describes the perils of bad language and suggests ways in which it has long excluded women's truth. She proposes a choral fusion of feminine talent as she brilliantly discourses on the work of Emily Dickinson, Gertrude Stein, and many others. So we love that. As you can see, I'm in a bit of a writers on writing, or writers on the pleasures of reading and writing phase. I also have Playing in the Dark, Whiteness and the Literary Imagination by Toni Morrison. Discussions of the Africanist presence in the fiction of Poe, Melville, and Hemingway that leads to a dramatic reappraisal of the essential characteristics of our literary tradition. She shows how much the themes of freedom and individualism, manhood and innocence depended on the existence of a Black population that was manifestly unfree and that came to serve white authors as embodiments of their own fears and desires. So basically, like, dark characters, and these dark characters, I'm assuming, being of African origin or having African features, and how, like, these white authors have used them as a way to be like villainous or like dark energies or problems for their main characters, which is amazing. Toni Morrison's work centers the Black American experience and Black main characters and the uniqueness of being a marginalized like member or an ostracized member in society. So I'm super excited for this. Add it to your TBR. If you've read a lot of Morrison's fiction and you want to read some of her nonfiction, this is what I'm going to be reading to accompany some fiction of hers that I plan on reading this year as well. And then of course I bought this, or I was gifted this in November, like during Barnes & Noble's sale. And this is A Room of One's Own by Virginia Woolf. A very, very classic like feminist text. She imagines that Shakespeare had a sister equal to Shakespeare in talent and equal in genius, but whose legacy is radically different. This imaginary woman never writes a word and dies by her own hand, her genius unexpressed. If only she had found the means to create, argues Woolf, she would have reached the same heights as her immortal sibling. I'm a huge like Shakespeare fan, and I think it would be interesting to read Virginia Woolf's imaginary story of Shakespeare and basically the ways in which being a woman probably limited her and her ability to create and express the way that Shakespeare did. So I'm excited to read this. Obviously, like, I need to read more from Virginia Woolf. I think this will be the first text that I've read on my own from Virginia Woolf, like, ever. Don't come for me. Don't come. But, you know, we're getting to it. Progress will be made. And then another book on writing is Wounds of Passion, A Writing Life by Bell Hooks. And it says, with her customary boldness and insight, Bell Hooks shares the foundation of her writing life, the triumphs she enjoyed, the suffering she endured, the pleasures she experienced. Super excited for this one as well. Obviously, you know, like I said, I'm going to be writing more this year, so I just find that reading books about writing helps me get more in that mindset, and like it feels very relatable with like these great authors and them sharing their insecurities or their writing philosophies and finding a way to relate to them. It feels very comforting and less intimidating, because as someone who reads a lot, and like reading a lot is equally important when writing, I'm always like mystified sometimes, and it's like, wow, can I ever really create something this amazing? I don't know. But reading books on writing, these amazing writers and their struggles or their methods of creating is just super inspiring, and it helps me. Another Bell Hooks book that is popular, that I've never read the entirety of the text, but I have read snippets like in college courses and stuff, and that is All About Love by Bell Hooks. It's all about love, baby. Like, it's basically bell hooks answering and exploring the question, what is love? Hooks examines her own search for emotional connection and society's failure to provide a model for learning to love, raising the cultural paradigm that the ideal love is infused with sex and desire. She provides a new path to love that is sacred, redemptive, and healing for individuals and for a nation. Bell Hooks, an amazing writer, theorist that I need to read more from. I also want to get to the Poetics of Space, which is a book that I've had for a while. And the back says, the house shelters daydreaming, the house protects the dreamer. The house allows one to dream in peace. The Poetics of Space has been a muse to philosophers, architects, writers, psychologists, critics, and readers alike. This lyrical journey takes as its premise the emergence of the poetic image and finds an ideal metaphor in the intimate spaces of our homes, guiding us through a stream of meditations on poetry, art, and the blooming of consciousness itself. This examines the domestic places that shape and hold our dreams and memories. Like, amazing. If there's one thing about me, I also love space, like outer space, physical space, homes, architecture, design, interior design. I've always been like an admirer in these spaces as a mold of expression or as a form of expression. So I'm super excited to get to this. I've had this book forever. I want to say for a year. And why haven't I read it yet? I don't know. Okay, so next we're gonna get into some fiction, literary fiction that I've been trying to get to. And the first one being Beloved by Toni Morrison. Like I said, I'm really diving into Toni Morrison's work. See, proud and beautiful, she escaped from slavery, but is haunted by its heritage. She must deal with this haunted life on every level, from the fires of the flesh to the heartbreaking challenges to the spirit. Set in rural Ohio several years after the Civil War, this profoundly affecting chronicle of slavery and its aftermath is Toni Morrison's greatest novel, a dazzling achievement and the most spellbinding reading experience of the decade. I have too been working through Toni Morrison's catalog. I got a lot to go. This would be my fourth Morrison that I've read. I've read The Bluest Eye, Sula, and Recitative, and next this, and then also Playing in the Dark, which I mentioned earlier. I also have The Source of Self-Regard, which I will potentially get to this year, but like I said, I'm kind of reading a little less this year. And I also want to read Jamaica Kincaid's Annie John. Annie John, the story of a young girl coming of age in Antigua. Kincaid tore open the theme that lies at the heart of all of her fierce, incantatory novels, the ambivalent and essential bonds created by a mother's love. In this novel, written in Kincaid's lucid, elemental style, Annie John's ambivalence is universally familiar and retchingly real. I'm excited to read Jamaica Kincaid. I have heard nothing but amazing things. I have been on the hunt for like more Black women writers, and I'm really excited to read this and be introduced to Kincaid's work. I also need to get to some of her nonfiction and poetry. I've heard amazing things about. And then also I want to finally read Freshwater by Akwaeke Emezi. I have read The Death of Vivek Oji, and I also read You Made a Fool of Death with Your Beauty, but I have really been wanting to read Freshwater. I've heard that this is their best work. I've heard nothing but amazing things, and this is the debut of Akwaeke Emezi, and it tells the story of Ada, an unusual child who is a source of deep concern to her southern Nigerian family. Young Ada is troubled, prone to violent fits. Born with one foot on the other side, she begins to develop separate selves within her as she grows into adulthood. Freshwater dazzles with ferocious energy and serpentine grace. Beautiful, stunning, one of the prettiest books I own, and I really enjoy Akwaeke Emezi's work. So I'm excited to get to Freshwater this year. And I forgot to mention a poetry book at the beginning of the video because I don't have a physical copy, but I want to read What to Eat, What to Drink, What to Leave for Poison by Camille T. Dungy. And This collection was actually recommended to me on my TikTok. If you don't follow me on TikTok, you should. I post a lot, so check it out. It'll be linked down below. But this was recommended to me because everyone knows like I'm a Mary Oliver stan, and I was told that Camille T. Dungy's work is very similar. It ponders the natural world. Yeah, and just to check it out. So I want to read that collection of poems. Those are all the books that I want to get to this year. Like I said, I already own most of them. There's only a few that I would have to purchase or like rent from the library. Oh my god, no, I'm lying. Okay, one more book that I don't own that's coming out. That's Small Worlds by Caleb Azuma Nelson, the author of Open Water, one of my favorite books of all time. Very lyrical writing. I believe this book is going to follow a young black man and his love and obsession with dance, and the ways in which dance builds on his bonds with his family, his father, his friends, and himself and his identity. So I'm super excited about Small Worlds. I just had to throw that in there. I forgot to mention it. But thank you so much. That concludes this video. Thank you so much for watching, and let me know what your reading goals are for this year and the first book that you've read in January or what you plan to read this month, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Bye.
I was like, yo.